Yeah, so I'm Jason Barth. I'm the CEO and founder of the Premier Group, and this is Luke.
Luke Kramer, Chief Technology Officer at the Premier Group.
So we're an integration firm, so we've got a bunch of verticals, but everything that we do sits on a network. So we've got our networking division, followed by security, so things like alarm systems, access control, and camera surveillance. We do a lot of then environmental integrations, so lighting, shades, thermostats, kind of all the things around your environment. And then we wrap it up with audio video. So that could be, meeting systems, conference systems, presentation, television displays, digital signage, et cetera. Interestingly, with FlexWerk, we've kind of wrapped all of that into one really tight package.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience, a good challenge to figure out how to tie some of our residential consumer lines with some of the commercial lines that we're doing, and integrating that together and making the experience exactly what they asked for.
Steve's the idea he expressed to me was for what he calls a friction-free ecosystem. And so, the first thing we did was sit and kind of define what that means. And ultimately, um, you're kind of borrowing and stealing from things that you see that work really well. And the analogy we came up with was kind of, Uber meets Airbnb. How do we build an app for FlexWerk that properly represents FlexWerk, where somebody could simply download the app, book a room like you book an Airbnb or an Uber, put your contact information in, reserve a space, and then everything after that is automated. So in other words, there's no employee at FlexWerk, there's no admin people that keystroke anything or authorize anything. When you book that, when you pick that location, that space, your phone becomes your key fob, right? Your credential to get you in the front door, past the lobby, and into your private, premium, personalized fitness space, right? Your name is on the screen, your workout time is aligned. When your time starts, that screen goes red, indicating that room is in use. And all of that is automated up and through the presets for the audio, video, and lighting systems.
Yeah, yeah, and to reflect on what you asked, the just the Premier Group having the partnerships with the different things, we're able to tie it all together. And that's what really set us apart from other integrators in being able to take the experience that we've gathered over the last 25 years and put it all into one nice box.
When Luke said, taking some of our residential technologies and commercial technologies and merging them, FlexWork is interesting, right? Because, we want it to feel comfortable and homey, not like a cold commercial establishment, like a big box gym or a hospital or we don't want it to feel cold. And so bringing in some more normal elements to make you feel like this is a space in your house, but it's customized for the ultimate workout session, whether you're by yourself or with your fitness professional. I think the lighting is a really big example. We've got fully tunable lighting, right? So you can't see, but above me here in the room are giant 4x8 panels of light. Those panels are fabric panels with acoustic absorptive material on top. So the light fixtures are about 6 inches deep. So it makes the room very quiet versus a lot of commercial spaces are very reflective, right? You've got hard floors and hard walls and glass. And so, but yet sitting in this room, it's very tight and it's very quiet. And so we used the lighting to accomplish multiple purposes to make the space just doesn't sound like a commercial space. It sounds like you're sitting at home with carpet on a couch, right? But then the lighting is also tunable. So we can go from basically almost candlelight in color temperature, from a very warm orangish kind of dim light. So if you want to be in the room and do yoga or meditation, up to 3,000 Kelvin would be like warm residential neutral lighting. 4,500 Kelvin on the color temperature scale is going to start to move towards daylight, all the way up to full daylight at 6,500 Kelvin. So you can feel like you're outside working out in the room. You can feel like you're in dim candlelight and in a more intimate setting, all changed just by changing the color temperature of the lighting.
And we've given that full control to the end user that is renting the space at that time.
When we talk about that single point of contact that the user just interfaces with an app, right? There's no contract. You don't have to talk to a real person. I know, that sounds odd, but in this day and age, right? I mean, you pay for your gas at the pump. We've been doing that for years, right? You don't go into the gas station and hand cash to an attendant. You check yourself out at the grocery store now in many cases, right? It's the world we live in, right? There's so many environments now where you just want it to be quick and you want it to be easy. And if you don't have to, stand and get a sales pitch from somebody and go through this whole process, we as consumers are happier about that, right? So I go back to that, Uber or Airbnb analogy where you can download the app, put your contact information in, put your credit card in, and if you book a room, you get charged. If you don't book a room, there's no you're not obligated to anything, right? We wanted to make it. Really wanted to match customer preferences with what the facility is built for.
Yeah, and again, being able to use a cloud space in order to tie in the multiple systems or stacks to make it as friction free as possible has been a real key to everything. Um, so the end user can, after they rent a room, now they are available to go to that space, which is through the access control system. But outside of their rent, they cannot have access to that space. So, we had mind of security, privacy, and as being as frictionless as possible.
Beyond personal security, right? Like you can't get into the space if you don't have a reservation. So we know everybody that's in the space all the time. So the facility is incredibly secure, right? Nobody can mill around or even get a tour without being escorted or having a reservation. But we also took it in terms of personal security with network security, right? You come into a space like this, and now your mobile and personal devices are on the network. Well, we've isolated. Luke has very successfully built out a system where each room is isolated on its own network, so that if, for example, you're casting to the technology, so we have the ability to cast, mobile devices, iOS, Android, Windows, PCs, cast to the audio and video systems in each room, but you're contained to that room. You can't accidentally cast into somebody else's room. They can't accidentally cast into your room, and you can't steal somebody's data. So we're big fans of in this day and age, of course, network security in addition to personal security. So we've kind of made this a very safe place to be. I mean, again, just like your home, I think anybody that chooses a place to live, you're going to choose a place where you feel safe. You wouldn't knowingly choose to live in a place where you felt unsafe. When you go to work, your place of work, you want to feel safe. Not just safe from vandals or crime, but also in a safe place with your coworkers, right? Well, coming to work out should be no different. You should feel safe, and it should be easy, and you should feel safe all the way around. So I think that's an important component to any business, right? Is personal safety and security. When we design and engineer a system from the start, we're thinking about the user experience, not necessarily the technology. We back our way into the right solution by thinking about that user's experience. How does the user change or adjust the lighting in the space? How do they select different genres of music? What does that user interface look like? And one of the challenges that we ended up running into unintentionally, iOS, and I'm going to say, first of all, we're agnostic to PC, Mac, Android, Windows, et cetera. We have to be, right? People embrace different choices, but iOS worked very well natively within the system, and early on we ran into some hiccups with Android that Luke has just recently solved.
Yeah, so one thing we kind of discovered is wireless presentation devices were not really meant with mobile devices in mind. They were meant with PCs. And so we ran into an issue where anything that had, Chromecast or licensing behind it, a lot of the wireless display devices out there just don't have the licensing built into them. They're dependent on your device to have them, which is fine when you're running a PC or a Mac. But when you pull out a mobile device, it's dependent on whatever you're connecting to handle those digital rights management. So we tried a lot of different product, and nothing really worked how we would want it to work as a consumer using a space. And so finally I was able to work with a digital signage company called iRevo, where we were able to utilize the protocols built into the TV itself, rather than trying to add another box to it. And then we worked together to develop their application so that it mimicked what we were using before. So now we're able to use the Chromecast Air Media protocols that are built into your mobile devices, and not have any of the hiccups like we were having before. And so it's been a nice partnership with iRevo, and we've also worked well with Sony, as they are a partner with Sony as well, to really get this thing to what we were hoping to get to.
Right. Yeah, it's a big challenge in our industry, right? Everybody just expects everything to work all the time. And yet the moment you introduce a customer's device, Jamie, our social media director who's here today, she walked to the office this morning and says, I got a new iPhone. I got the new iPhone 15. Oh, geez, who's tested that? What did they change on the iPhone 15? Is it going to work in every environment, in every use case? Somebody else walks in, they're still on an iPhone 8, right? Somebody has a new Android device. Somebody has an old Android device. Somebody's on a 2010 Windows XP machine. Somebody else has got the latest, greatest, Microsoft Office technology. We're all different. We've all got different devices, and it is more challenging than you would think to be able to seamlessly integrate all of that into one user-friendly ecosystem. And I got to pat Luke over here. He knocked it out of the park. It's literally, I don't think Steve knows how many hours and months of R&D we have in developing the ecosystem that we have. And to take it one step further, when Luke talked about the stacks, right, what he's referring to is the security, the lighting, the audio video, right, the different disciplines that are in each space. So for example, when you book a room, when you walk into that room is going to be preset with what we call the house vibe. So the music is on. I think we determined in a large space, like 18% is the appropriate low volume, but in a small space, it's only 15%, right? But that music is curated to the house vibe, what's playing in the lobby, the hallways, and the bathrooms at a low volume level, and the lights are dimmed down to 20% and at a very warm color temperature. So it's very inviting, and the room's on, and then again, on the TV screen, it shows your name and what time your workout is for, so it welcomes you to the space. Well, then you can walk over to the keypad, and you can select any lighting scene that you want, any intensity and any level of lighting, and you can pick from like your car, picking preset radio stations, right? Well, Steve has allowed us to continue to innovate, and so the next iteration is we're going to replace the analog keypads with touchscreens. We'll have 8-inch touchscreens, which will give the customers more choices, more interactivity, just like they would on their phone or personal device. So it's going to give us more flexibility. And when we designed all this, we had to think about all of the markets that FlexWerk has been invited into. I mean, Steve can tell you that since launch, he's gotten calls from Dubai and Qatar and France and Italy and Spain and Japan and I mean, literally all over the globe. And so what we're able to do is to convert this ecosystem into other languages, and we had to work with all global suppliers so that all the products that build this complex ecosystem that ultimately appears very simple for both FlexWerk's corporate team to manage and for individual franchisees to manage and the end user to use. We had to think about all these things, and that we could deploy this globally and then just change the language of the interface, right? So we're really pretty excited about what we've developed. It's taken, the better part of the, not just the last year since FlexWerk opened, but, quite a bit of time prior to that to really nail it. But we love the fact that we're allowed to continue to innovate and bring new technologies to the table. Moving to touch screens, and I've talked to a bunch of the fitness professionals around here in this space, and didn't get a lot of positive or negative vibes. They're just kind of like, well, this is what it is, right? They operate it, they use the space. This is what they've been presented with. They all love it. I mean, it's really fun. When Steve's done some event days where you guys are shooting video content and interviewing people that come in and walk out, and they almost all mention the lighting, which I think is really fun. And when we'll kind of show you the technology in a few moments here, we'll kind of go in a little deeper, but I'll point out some interesting things about the lighting that you wouldn't think about. But certainly moving to the touch screens is just going to be a kind of cooler, more deeper integration, where we'll be able to provide more features and benefits for the operation of the system.
Hopefully, a little more intuitive.
Yeah.
Easier for the end user to pick up on without having to be trained.
There's this concept that we've been talking about lately. I've had several interesting conversations around artificial intelligence and virtual training, and there's no question we talked about that 2 years ago when we embarked on this concept, and the ability to take a trainer or a person who's remotely and broadcast them into each individual room on your screen and interact with them, and they can see you and see the whole room and how you're working out, and you could talk with them just very natively in the room. Like when you launch your session, your FitPro's just on your screen. And certainly pre-COVID, if you weren't familiar with Zoom or Google Meets or Cisco WebEx or Microsoft Teams, you certainly know now, right? People know now. I mean, Zoom became kind of like a household word, like Kleenex. Kleenex is actually a brand of tissue, right? So Zoom just kind of became, everybody says, well, are you getting on the Zoom, even if you were doing some other session, right? So I think part of the innovation is leveraging that capability. But as we talked about that and a lot of the fitness apps that are out there, we bring it back to how important the fitness professional is to this ecosystem. And Steve and I just had a really interesting conversation yesterday about it. And I was talking, so I actually am a customer. We're a vendor partner, but I also started working out at FlexWerk. And Steve placed me with a Fit Pro, and I'm addicted. I'm over 50 years old. I'm in that category where I played every sport in high school and college, and I was in the best shape of my life. And life gets in the way, and you get busy. And suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in good shape, and I want better mobility. I want to feel better. I really wanted to hit a golf ball farther. That was a big motivating factor. So I started working out with Pat, who's one of the great pros here, and it's life changing. But two key things that we identified that AI and that technology can't replace that human interaction. First of all, they're holding you accountable, right? Second, when I'm working out, Pat is looking at me and he's looking at my angles and my posture, and he's telling me if I'm getting it right. And I think it would be very difficult to do that if you don't have a fitness pro there in person. Certainly the remote pro on the camera, maybe you're working out, 3-4 times a week, and once is with your pro in person, and a couple times remotely, or they're assigning you, your homework, right? But when I catch Pat, like physically, it's almost like he can feel what I'm feeling when I'm doing the stretch or the exercise or the workout. He's very in tune, to make sure I'm not injuring myself and et cetera. So I think there's a really great human component that this space is really for fit pros to succeed with people who are serious about getting healthy, right? And so it's just such a great concept. And I'm telling you, I was that guy that I would be caught dead in a big box gymnasium. It's intimidating, it's embarrassing, it's messy, whatever my conceptions of that are, right? It's right for some people, just like this isn't right for everybody, right? You find the place that fits your needs. But I'm addicted now. I mean, I can't imagine for the rest of my life that I won't work out consistently. I've built that habit, and I look forward to it so much. And the other part that we discovered about the Fit Pro that I think is super interesting is I have some friends now that come in here and work out by themselves, and they get a workout done in an hour and a half, and they're pretty intense. They've had worked out previously, and they try to say, wow, this place is really great. It's private. It's, I get a better experience. When I work out with Pat, I get the same workout done in 50 or 55 minutes tops, because in between movements, et cetera, and I'm taking my 30 or 45 second cool down, Pat's setting up the next exercise. So I feel pretty spoiled to have a Fit Pro who is guiding me through the process in person, but literally just lifting the bars out, loading the weights on, preparing the next exercise, I find incredibly valuable. It's a time hack, right? It gets me doing what I'm supposed to be doing the way that I'm supposed to be doing it. So I've become a huge fan of FlexWerk, even though I met Steve through the technology business and solving a problem for them and helping build this amazing ecosystem that I think everybody's collectively proud of. But at the end of the day, it's about health and wellness. It's not about the technology. Like we don't want the technology to get in the way. We want it to supplement and help drive the business.
Absolutely. I don't have a personal experience working out here. I do see the benefit and how much this space means, especially for the person who Jason alluded to doesn't want to be working out in front of a bunch of other people. Um, and so again, we were able to just enhance that and make that experience as good of an experience for that end user as possible.
So who would be interested in FlexWork? You know, to me, a lot of there's a lot of components of any business that's common sense, and then there's real proprietary IP or knowledge or benefits that a business brings to their customer or their community, right? So I think it seemed like the obvious for me when Steve brought us FlexWork and said, "Here's the technology solution that I need. I haven't been able to figure this out. What do you guys know?" And as we brainstormed on it, we as a technology company, um, we're really a design firm first, right? You have to design the right systems. You have to understand your customer at a deep level. Well, so we needed to understand Steve and where he was coming from, but we also needed to dive deep and make sure we understood the fitness community and how fit pros operate, how end users operate, what they like, what they don't like. So we really had to do a deep dive on that. And I think the obvious conclusion you'd come to from common sense says this place is for people who want privacy. They don't want to be working out in front of a bunch of other people. Um, I'm not a woman. I can't understand it, but I know a lot of women that don't like to go to the gym because they get hit on by guys. Other women like to go to the gym to get hit on by guys. Um, but clearly that's a stigma in the industry, right? And so it comes back to that safety, security, comfort, convenience, how quickly you're able to get in and out of here. You're not waiting on the next piece of equipment. Nobody sweated all over, the thing you're using next. It's private. It's personal. It's premium. Steve drills that home all the
It's
time.
very efficient.
Yeah, it's just very efficient, and I think the technology package enhances that greatly. And so I think it's for a lot of people. I think as people uncover and explore what FlexWork is, and you get in here and you like book a day pass, come in and do a workout, and you'll figure out very quickly if it's for you or not. It's definitely resonated with me, which was something I did not expect when we came in as a technology partner. I did not expect to fall in love with working out. This environment is what changed it for me, for real. So I'm a big fan. I'm a music buff, right? I mean, music and lighting together create an emotion. They create a mood. They create a feeling. So when you come in to work out, you're in different moods. Am I working out at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. or 3 in the afternoon or late at night, right? We all have different moods. And so the room can always match your mood. When you go into a big box gym, maybe they're playing, heavy metal 80s Thursday, right? Or whatever, right? You just get what you get. And the fact that this is personalized to your mood. So, been working out with Pat for 3 months now, and I know that one of Pat's favorite features is that his iPad sits on the credenza, and he is connected to the room, and he's managing his own content in the room, right? So he's not using the house presets, right? He's got his playlists, he's got his Spotify account and his Sirius account, and he likes to, put certain content up on the screen and have certain music on. Virtually every time I've walked in to work out with Pat, the music that he's selected matches my mood, which is just pure coincidence. One time, this was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, I walk in and I don't know what station he had on. And we're 3 minutes into the workout and I go, "Pat, I'm not feeling it." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "This music, this is terrible." And he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "This wasn't the station I was expecting it to be." And, I love all kinds of music, but I couldn't work out to like this folky bluegrass that was going on, right? So he immediately changed it. I don't remember what he put on, but it's again, it's that personalized feel. Like your space is whatever you want it to be in the moment you're working out.
Yeah. So what Jason alluded to earlier is we've set up 4 stations essentially that are different emotions, vibes, feels, and so you can choose from those stations, or if they're not really matching up to what you actually want to hear at that time, with the technology package that we've put in, we've given the end user the ability to cast their own content into that space, and it doesn't affect anybody else's space. So it's a nice closed work area where you can utilize your own content.
Which is really interesting. I want to point out, Luke used some technical terms earlier. He talked about digital rights management, right? By law, we can't broadcast television content in a room. But if you're in a personal private space and you've got a YouTube TV account and you want to watch the game that's on right now, well, off of your personal device, you can watch that. That's your right. You're paying for that content, and you're just casting it into the space. So this is a recent innovation, right? So now a client can't, you want to watch old episodes of Grey's Anatomy while you're working out, have at it, right? I don't know why that came to mind, but I'll come in. If I come in by myself, I might put one of Tiesto's sets from Ultra or Tomorrowland, and I'm going to work out to his hour-long set of music. So again, it's that real flexibility for the mood that you're in, all the feels. We've given you all the feels.
Exactly. The room is really acoustically treated, and so once the door's closed, you really can't hear much of what's going on outside the room, and from outside, they really can't hear much of what's going on inside the room. And then as far as what Jason alluded to before, we set up different broadcast domains or different networks. So every room has its own network, and when you come into the space, you hit the QR code with your phone. That puts you into that network, and then from there you can cast or you can see the TV at that point, so that you have the ability to cast your content in. But it's an isolated domain, so the other spaces don't have the ability to see into that. So yeah, it is a bubble.
And if you don't want to cast, or you just want to walk in to get to work out, we described kind of the 4 environments that we've created: 4 different lighting environments and 4 different music environments, and they're named, right? Relax it's low level lighting, soothing, spa-ish music. Energize, right? That's gonna be more up tempo, rock music. There's
Flex.
Flex. That's probably the rock music station. I forget which one Steve assigned, but he's got these different styles. So that's something that he was real interested in curating, those vibes, right? So we have the house vibe, we call it, and then these kind of these moods or these settings that you can choose, or cast your own content, right?
Sony is a great partner with us, and they supply some great products that we put a lot of trust behind. So when we were picking out the displays for this room or these flex spaces, we had in mind the ultimate solution, which is maybe they get to the point where FlexWerk is working 24 hours a day. So these displays need to be able to run 24 hours a day. So that was specifically the product that we looked for. And then as we brought them in and then learned about the issues with the wireless
Casting.
the wireless presentation devices, being able to utilize the protocols that were built into Sony's, that Sony already is paying for, and bring those in. And in accompanying that with a digital signage company, iRevo, we were able to mirror or merge the two and really bring the solution that we needed for this space and to what the end user wanted to be able to use.
And again, pulling the data from each user. Again, remember, you're downloading an app, putting your personal information in, and booking a room. And nobody is managing or keying anything into any system to allow you to now get into the building at that assigned time and to have your name and your reserved time showing up in the room you booked. It's fully automated, including then the audio and video lighting preset when you walk in the room. And when your session is done, the room resets itself, right? So it's a little more intense. It might have even been more than we thought we were biting off from the beginning, to literally connect all of these systems and make that happen. But it's exciting and it's fun, and maybe nobody notices or cares, but it sure works for the company, for FlexWerk itself, right? To take that subjectivity and the physical operation of technology away from an assigned employee who doesn't have to worry about it, right? Who doesn't have to say, "Oh, somebody just booked. I got to make sure I key them into the room and that we make it all happen. It just works. Steve's a startup, right? This is a new business. He chose from day one to franchise, right? He said we're going to be a franchise. We're going to go national and global. You got to start somewhere, right? And Steve's from Southern California. I love his story, right? He's been in the fitness industry his entire life. Um, and when he conceived of the idea of FlexWork and came up with the concept of kind of meeting fit pros and end users and this whole industry and coming up with a unique concept to kind of marry them together. So we'll add the Match.com component to the concept on top of the Airbnb Uber analogy. Um, it really is unique. I mean, a space like this doesn't exist, and we felt there was a stronger analogy probably with like co-working spaces than there is analogy to a big box gym. I mean, it's a very different concept. Um, and so Steve, went on a map and they picked some cities. They said we can't launch in Southern California. It's a very saturated market. It's very expensive, taxes, whatever, whatever. They knew they were going to uproot their family to launch this venture. And thank you, Mayor Brainerd at the time, who attracted Steve to Carmel. I mean, I think they visited Austin, Texas, a couple cities in Ohio, maybe Michigan, or um, and they picked Carmel in Indiana. And honestly, that's how we met Steve. He landed here and he said, "Okay, I've talked to I don't know, a dozen, 15 companies about my technology issue." And the architect that he had hired out of the gate said, "Well, have you talked to Premier?" And that's how we met. Um, so, so Steve established, the corporate location here in Carmel, Indiana. That's where his headquarters is. Downtown Indianapolis, of course, is 30 minutes straight south, right in the heart of downtown. So the new location is going to be on New York Street, a block off Mass Avenue. It's going to be a spectacular location. We've been involved in the design for probably 6 months now. Really, really kind of flagship, special, very grand location. Um, and then I know that there's already talks about a Fisher's location, so kind of triangulating Indianapolis. Meanwhile, Steve has no shortage of calls coming in from potential developers all over the country. Whether it's Miami, Orlando, Texas. He's talked to a group in California. I mean, some groups all over, as well as the foreign interests. So that goes back to our ability to scale this internationally with the lighting fixtures, right? The primary lighting fixture we chose, the company's headquartered in Canada, but they also manufacture in Asia and Italy and in South America, right? Like we literally, Sony, obviously they're a global partner. So there was a lot of forethought that went into making sure that we didn't launch something that we're going to hit roadblocks or stumbles along the way, and that if we were going to meet Steve's vision to build, 3,000 locations globally, well, heck, we better make sure we get this right.
Yeah, and then, being that all of the FlexWorks are going to be using the same cloud backbone, you as an end user will have the ability to choose which FlexWork you want to go work out at. By being a member, you have access to all the locations, and so that's really how it's going to be the same experience, no matter whether you're working out here or working out in Dubai.
So I know from Pat's story that I have personal experience with that he used to drive all over creation, right? He had clients here and there, and he was spending a lot of time driving, which is a use of his time, and we all only have so much time, right? That's our most valuable asset is our time. He was also putting a lot of wear and tear on his vehicle. So when Pat said, "You know what, I'm going to plant my roots here in Carmel at FlexWork, and this is where I'm going to bring my clients," I don't know the exact date. I would be making it up if I said, but I think he lost about half his clients. And within several weeks, he replaced those with clients that wanted to come here because they liked the place, right? It's a premium experience. Um, and he's been off and running ever. His schedule is full. He can't take new clients. He is doing very, very well, and now he doesn't have to drive all over the place. But there's another scenario where he maybe had some very loyal long-term clients that live downtown or live in Fishers or are over in Zionsville. And as the ecosystem expands, and we've got the video conferencing capability in each room, he could set up remote sessions. So he could say, "Okay, I'm going to be here and I'm going to finish working out a client, but I can't drive downtown and get back. That's going to take me an hour, but I'm going to be on your screen." And so they're in their room and he's in his room. There's a lot of options to innovate with the technology. Um, at CES this year, we saw holograms full blown. Well, what if my virtual Pat was in the room with me, right? Um, that would just be a future innovation that sounds wild and crazy, but probably is not out of the realm of something that we'll try in the next couple years. Um, and you're not the green fuzzy hologram. I'm talking like the real person standing in the room with you. That'd be pretty wild, right? So there's no shortage of dreams and vision and ideas on our side.
We're not quite to the point of video conferencing, but that's the next step. We're gonna get there next, where we're gonna bring in a camera, and attach that to the into the video meeting, so that if there's a celebrity trainer that you want to schedule with, that you can, and no matter where you're at, and still have that bidirectional feedback. Um, so it's exciting to see what's gonna come
Yes.
first.
So that is an innovation that will launch with the Indianapolis location, we think. Um, and then we'll just, any technology innovation will just move into the other franchises. So all the technology is the same in every space, with their concept, right? Which we don't control. There are flex space and flex space pluses. So we used to call them singles and doubles. But in a room like this, a Fit Pro could be working out several clients at the same time, or a small group. The single rooms are typically just either yourself or yourself and a Fit Pro. But the technology is the same throughout all the spaces. Downtown, we're going to have flex studios, which will be open spaces for dance, yoga, Pilates, meditation, and we think those are going to be extremely popular spaces, is the data we have so far. But again, same technology package, with the lighting and we'll offer a few enhancements in those spaces that meet the needs of what we'll call the flex studios.
Our next step is the video conferencing aspect of things. As consumer demand comes for more things, like he alluded to with the
Holograms.
holograms, being able to do that.
I'm gonna push this guy a little bit, but it's fun. It's fun stuff, right? I mean, we'll see how relevant it is. Maybe we just put it in one room, right? Like, this is the room. Book this room if your Fit Pro's remote, or perhaps Steve does an alignment with a celebrity trainer, and we do a week where at this facility you can come in and book this room and work out with whoever, right? I want to work out with Brooke Burke, right? Great, okay, awesome. I mean, you see it out there. I mean, CES was really, this technology is advancing so quickly. You literally, it's very expensive. It's not something that's currently in the realm of, like, it's not on the roadmap for the next year or whatever. But at CES, you could walk into a booth, and then people on the other side of the room, you're experienced as a hologram, and it's deadly lifelike. I mean, it is scary how real that is. The applications there, I think, corporate shareholder meetings, the CEO's in the room with everybody. There's so many applications, I think, but that's going to come from big budget, large commercial corporate applications, and all that stuff trickles down, right? The R&D all has to be done somewhere, and it trickles down to the point where it's going to be affordable to put in a flex space, a single-use personalized space. We'll get there. Is that 2 or 3 years, 5 years? But that's not a 10 or 15-year dream. That's 3 years. I think we're going to see this stuff coming into the space. So again, we talk about this in our business all the time, right? What industries are going to be replaced with AI and VR and new technology, and what aren't? Well, nothing's going to do the work for you. If you want to be healthy, you got to eat right first. You got to make the right choices with your nutrition and your diet. And it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Pat's got me on the 80-20 rule, right? Jason, 80% of the time, you got to make good choices. So 4 out of 5 times, don't order the fries at the McDonald's drive-thru. Don't go to the McDonald's drive-thru. Don't drink the Pepsi, drink water, or, but 20% of the time, you can eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, right? It's a lot easier to think of it in those terms and not have that pressure. You don't have to be perfect to have a big impact. I lost 12 pounds in the first month and a half. You hit a plateau, everybody learns, but I'm not a fitness nut. I'm not a health guru. I just know that I'm not getting any younger, and I wanted to feel better. So, we'll see what the future brings. But at the end of the day, when you look at an industry like this, AI and VR are not going to replace doing the work. I mean, I don't need to be in a virtual FlexWork space. That does no good. I actually need real equipment. I need resistance and weights and right. So, these technologies are not going to do the work for you, right? We're all human beings. We got to live right. It's important. It's really important, and you learn that as you get older in life, and you wish you'd have started sooner. But it's never too late. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think, having in mind the ability to scale was up front on everything that we decided. That way that we could take this system and deploy it thousands of times, literally. And so, yeah, it's been great. We've focused on partnering with great vendors that we're able to work with internationally. And as he alluded to, with Steve giving us the ability to kind of flex our brains on it and really
flex our muscles.
our brain muscle. And yeah, really bring it home. It's been good.